Hey losers, this is Leonard. I'm gonna do a review of Star Wars Battlefront for you guys. First thing I want to get out there is this is very much like the newest Star Wars movie, and in terms of reviewing it, because nostalgia is a very, very powerful deterrent to being unbiased or to give a really objective review. People always say, "Well, no, it will never ever possibly live up to the previous ones, so it's gonna be terrible." Well, just come to terms with the fact that it's not going to be as good as the previous versions, the ones we grew up with. Like I grew up with Star Wars Battlefront. I have come to terms with the fact that nothing will ever really compare ever. And so as soon as you do that, you are allowing yourself to be able to really enjoy or judge fairly what comes along. So with that, Star Wars games, like anything with an established canon, walk a very dangerous tightrope. You have to be true to the series, really be able to immerse people in the franchise universe, while at the same time being a truly enjoyable game on its own. That sometimes it doesn't look that hard at all. Like for example, the Star Wars Battlefront games were really good about immersing you, making you feel like you're part of the game or part of the universe, while at the same time being a fun game. Rogue Squadron, same thing, really great about that. This game does a really great job of really immersing you in the universe, and I'm just absolutely in love with that. For example, you don't feel like you're in an arena or like a island. You really feel like you're on a slice of the planet, and you're having this battle that would be perfectly home in the Star Wars movies. And you've got the sound effects, you've got the music, the weapons. I really am fond of the weapons because as a kid, when I saw the weapons in Star Wars, I thought, hey, wait a minute, those look like actual weapons that exist, and they really were. They were surplus and stuff that they jury rigged into um, props. And that's like, for example, the Stormtrooper rifle is very clearly a Sten submachine gun that they've slapped shit on. And when you see them in the game, you can actually see that there's still those items with stuff bolted onto them to resemble new props, and I really like that. It really makes you feel like you're part of this. The It definitely does. And there's even little subtle things that make you remember that you're part of something. You're part of this big old battle. Like, for example, later in this video, you'll see some Jawas scurrying under a sandcrawler. You can't interact with them, like, and they provide no benefit to the game. But it's really cool seeing that reminder that you're not on some desolated area. There's life running around, and that's really incredible. That being said, I think the biggest shortcoming of this game is the fact that it's not really that enjoyable. I mean, it's actually kind of boring after a while. That's the big caveat. It's really fun, for example, if you have it for a couple days and you play it, well, nonstop for a couple days or off and on for about a week or so. It's really a fun game. But once you reach about like level 30, you've pretty much got everything unlocked, and that's kind of terrible. But the walker battles are some of the most fun ones. But even then, you can't just have one thing going. I mean, you got vehicle combat's fun. Vehicle combat's enjoyable. It's okay. The hero battles and what have you, hero characters are also kind of fun. Those are fun carryovers from the previous ones. Um, but in general, after a while, there's really not a whole lot to do. I mean, you've got some single player, sort of. There's not really much of a campaign at all in this game. Okay, there straight up isn't a campaign. There's some battles you can do with single player or friend. You can't do random matchmaking, which is kind of a shame. Can't make any new friends off the game that way. You've also got these horde mode kind of things, which again, it just seems like such wasted potential. They could have had a story mode. I mean, Battlefront 1 and 2 had pretty cool story modes. That it just feels like a waste. And that's kind of the general premise of this game. Is it doesn't feel like there's not a whole lot to go back to. And one of the big things that I like about kind of Battlefield kind of shooters is the adaptability. And that's something Battlefront 1 and 2 had going for it huge, was the multi-class system. You could use your ARC troopers with their rocket launchers, or you could use Bothan spies with their, I think they had some sort of sonic gun. Anyway, you could have multiple roles and adaptability, and things like in Battlefield, you've got different weapon classes that you can do unique things with. Well, that could have been done with the card system, and it sort of is alleviated slightly, but it really isn't that much. I mean, you're still basically all the same guy with slight variations and tweaks, which, okay, that's a good arcade shooter, but even Halo, which is very much like that, where you're all basically the same person, it somehow still does it better. There's no customization really beyond, like, there's a little thing, some things you can do with your character's head, like change him into a male or female in different variations. The Rebels have a cool thing where you can be different aliens. That's really cool. Zabrak, Yeah, you can be Zabraks, different Twilix and what have you. That's pretty cool. But like weapons, there's nothing you can do. You can't remove scopes, and they're like, there's this one weapon that's like a submachine gun, and it's really cool. And I hate having a scope on it because those weapons I usually just go around corners spraying from the hip, and very rarely I'll bring it up, and I need to see all my iron sights around me, and I just can't do that with a scope. And I feel like that's a huge limitation. It kind of limits your ability to adapt to new situations, and I feel like that's something this game does really bad. There's a marksman rifle where the most powerful rifle in the game, and you can't have a scope on it, but it's really long range. And these maps are pretty big that you're fighting on, so a scope would have really helped. There is another rifle similar to it. It's got slightly less power and scope, but you should still have the option to put a scope on there. And I feel like that's something that they really screwed up on, is they need to have weapon adaptability, and they need to have something that make you return to it. Because I mean, there's no like prestige mode or anything. Once you're maxed out, like that's it. The game's pretty much over. And I'm really hoping that the DLC will alleviate this in some way, just really help patch that up. I think to really summarize how I feel about this game is a rental. It's really a game that you can rent, play, get the entire enjoyment, and take it back. And it really bums me out because this particular game was a gift from someone. That makes it always hard to say this game really isn't that great, especially you don't want to say that when it's a gift. But tragically, that's the case. It's really good, but it's also kind of a letdown that they didn't really go anywhere with it. There's so much they could have done, and I'm really hoping the DLC will help alleviate some of that. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But if you can, rent it, borrow it from a friend, get get 5 days worth of gameplay into it, and I'm afraid that's it. That's you can't keep going. This game definitely made me nostalgic for the old Star Wars games, and I'm sure that's not what their intended goal was. So rent this game, borrow it from a friend, something of that sort. Don't spend your money on it if you can avoid it. Get a used copy for $20 once it gets down to that price. Yeah. I wish I could have given it a better review. That's just how I feel about it. Keep watching our videos, subscribe. This is Leonard from Losers at Work. See you next time.